Hi everyone, I wanted to give everyone an update on where we are at as a church, offer some encouragement and a few thoughts on how we can be a church in a time like this. First, I'd like to give an announcement about the coronavirus. And talking with a variety of people, both inside and outside of our church, I've noticed two extreme views. Everything from this is Armageddon to this is a government conspiracy. And I'm not an expert in government, nor am I an expert in faulty Bible interpretation. But I will say that both of these views are unrealistic extremes, and they're both likely not true, nor are they helpful in a time like this. Earlier today, I had a chance to sit down with a few pastors and community leaders, and one being was a representative from our local hospital. And the impact from this virus, from the shutting down of restaurants to the disappearance of toilet paper and a whole host of other issues, presents some actual significant challenges to our community, both here and around our area. And in talking with medical professionals, not the opinions gathered from people's Facebook feeds, the coronavirus, while it does not at the moment present any health concerns for the majority of the general population, it does present great risk for those who are classified as high-risk patients. You can look this up on the CDC's website, but being high risk includes those who are older adults, and I believe they were saying somewhere in the 60s and over, don't quote me on that. The others are those with pre-existing health issues that may have a lower immune system and they can be compromised, such as heart and lung disease, diabetes, and other medical concerns. And so for the safety of those who fall into that bracket and those who, so we don't want to overwhelm our hospitals with patients, health and governing officials have encouraged people to remain in social isolation for about 8 weeks. They have recently released and encouraged people that if they're going to be in a group, that it's no more than 10 people. And as you might imagine, this has tremendous impact on churches both locally and globally. Currently in our county, there is no sites to be tested at for the virus. The hospitals are encouraging people just stay home. If you're high risk, you can come in, you'll get swabbed, and they'll send it out for tests, and it'll be a result in about 2 weeks. So it's very possible, since we have cases in Springfield and other counties around us, that it's probably here too. And since we cannot be fully sure on that, it's best to be wise as a church. And as a leadership, we have been monitoring how other churches across the country are handling this situation. We've been listening to what the health department's been saying, and we've met several times and talked quite a bit as leadership to discuss what we are going to do about our public worship gatherings and the other activities on our church. And so we decided that since we have a lot of people who fall in the high-risk category, that we're going to postpone the corporate gatherings here at our church. We do not make that decision lightly, and we certainly do not make that out of fear, so as to add to the panic that people feel. We make this decision because we believe the Bible calls us to look out for those who are vulnerable, and we as a church, we want to look out for those in our community who are vulnerable, as well as in Litchfield. So with that being said, as of right now, we are planning to move everything to an online format, and I understand that makes everything very different. It's very different for me. We'll be recording our messages and putting them online. We're still toying around with live stream, but we're not there yet. But I would like to guide you to 2 places where you can keep up with the messages. First, you can go to our website. You will be able to find the sermons online on our homepage. And when the message gets posted for the week, we will also have 2 links there. Next to the message. The first link will be some sermon notes and application points for the week. This will help give you an opportunity and ideas to dive deeper as a family, as a couple, and as an individual. And the second link will be a tithing button called Give Now. This is set up through our church's PayPal account. PayPal is a very reliable giving company, and it's pretty reputable. It's not shady, I promise. And as a church, we still have ministry and other basic functions that go on outside of the Sunday morning experience, such as building and staff and other expenses. So moving our services online has a potential to impact the church in a big way financially. So I would ask that you'd be mindful of that and you'd continue to give regularly. And if you're not currently giving, we invite you to give. You can do that through things like make giving a priority, whether you're here physically in the building or you're not. You can set up recurring payments through PayPal or your bank. You can mail a check. You can drop it off at the office if you're out and about. So that's all I have for announcements. So let me give you some encouragement. In Acts chapter 8, the church faces one of the most transforming experiences that they have ever faced. It caused them to change really much of how they have been doing church. The church up to this point was primarily located in Jerusalem, and they had this explosive growth. They had thousands of people who got baptized, were following the teachings of Jesus, not to mention that in Jerusalem, they had all of the apostles. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a part of the Jerusalem church? I mean, it was this mega church that was transforming the world, the community for the gospel, not to mention that they had the apostles of Jesus as their pastors. I mean, this is best case scenario. And yet, look at how Acts chapter 8 describes what happens next. It says this. It says, on that day a great persecution broke out against the church and in Jerusalem, and all except the apostles were scattered throughout Judea and Samaria. Godly men buried Stephen and mourned deeply for him. But Saul began to destroy the church, going from house to house. He dragged off both men and women and put them in prison. The church, like overnight, goes from this mega church to no church gathering because of persecution. The members of this church, they get scattered all across the region. And looking at this from their point of view, this could not be any worse. I mean, this is worst case scenario. The church is dispersed and the people are without their shepherds. Not to mention that the poor among them, they didn't have the resources available to them. I mean, what in the world? But this is kind of like one of those Joseph moments where what man intended for evil, God intended for good. Because here is what we see happen next. In verse 4 it says this. It says, those who had been scattered preached the word wherever they went. Philip down to a city in Samaria and proclaimed the Messiah there. When the crowds heard Philip and saw the signs he performed, they all paid close attention to what he said. For with shrieks impure spirits came out of many, and many who were paralyzed or lame were healed. So there was great joy in the city. What happened here transformed the church forever. While they had the big guns in Jerusalem, the apostles, this was the first time that they were forced to move beyond themselves to get the gospel out. And as a result, we see God use that scattering in a big way in Acts. The scattering resulted in the preaching of the word everywhere they went, and we are products of what God did in that calamity. And this calamity God used to expand his church. And church, I would propose two things in light of Acts 8 in our situation. First, I think that Acts 8 we are seeing here is a great opportunity for the gospel. Some think this is social isolation, everything moving online is the worst case scenario, but I think this is probably one of the historic moments where God moves in a calamity for kingdom advancement. Second, even though the church was scattered, it did not stop being the church. The church is not a building that we gather in, but it is about a people who belong to Jesus and worship together, whether that means we worship in homes or large buildings. We are still the church even when things feel and look different. We do not need the facility. We are we're in to continue to be the church. We are the church, and unlike any other time, this is the time for us to rise up and be the church. This is the time for us to shine and make an impact in a hurting and scared world. And so let me give you just a few ways that we can do that. First, I want to encourage you to pray. Pray for our community. Pray for those who work in the hospitals. Pray for the police officers and other community leaders. Pray for God to bring about a revival in our county, in our country. Second, honor the governing official's decision for social isolation. I mean, Scripture encourages us to obey the laws of the land, and while this is not a law, it is certainly wise to follow the guidelines for the sake of those who are vulnerable. Third, if you're a higher risk person, please don't hesitate to reach out for needs and prayers that you may have. I mean, there are those in the church who are healthy who would love to help. If that means getting you something from the store, praying with you, whatever that is, please reach out, get connected, contact the church, contact others so we can know. And fourth, there are a lot of people who are either afraid or not in good health to get around without getting sick, and this is a great opportunity for you to go check on your neighbors. See if there's anything you can do for them, picking things up at the store, praying for them, etc. And fifth and last, the school district has been organizing meals for students in our area to have them have some meals throughout the week. And in case you were not aware, there's somewhere between 60 and 70% of our students in our community that rely heavily upon the school meals to eat. And so the school has stepped up to provide meals. Praise God for them. And one other thing is that they are needing hygiene supplies to put into bags. Things like shampoo, toothbrushes, toothpaste, tooth floss, lotion, deodorant, feminine products, etc. We can provide that. So let's gather that. Church, this is a great opportunity to make a big impact in our community. Let's rise to the occasion and watch what God is going to do next and however many weeks we have. And join in online as we kick off our new series called Sent, how we can advance the gospel in turbulent times. We'll look at the book of Acts and discover what they did in the changing and challenging time that we kind of find ourselves in now. We love you and we're praying for you. God bless, and we'll see you soon.